We're now live.
Great. I want to welcome everyone this evening to the February meeting of the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors. First item is the call to order, which I have done. I'm going to now do the native lands acknowledgement. And the purpose of this is to acknowledge someone is to say, I see you and you are significant. The purpose of a land acknowledgement is to recognize and pay respect to the original inhabitants of a specific region. And it's an opportunity for us to express gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory in which you exist. COCC would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original homelands of the Wasco, or the Wasco, we call them, and the Wanalama, or the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the U.S. government in the Treaty of 1855. The Numu, the Paiute people, were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It's also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls trading grounds, and the Klamath tribes claim it as their own. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our communities today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. Next item is roll call.
Yep, calling roll. Bruce Abernethy.
Here.
Alan Unger.
Here.
Joe Crenowitz.
Yes. Present.
Oliver Tatum.
Here.
Jim Clinton.
Here.
Lori Tessie. Here. Alicia Moore. Here. Zach Boone.
Here.
Laura Bomey. Here. Anne Marie Hamlin. Here. Andrew Kutziver.
Here.
Kathleen Knudsen. Here. Sarah Barron. Here. Venus Nguyen.
Here.
Mark Reineke.
Here.
Paul Taylor.
He's coming
Here.
up.
He's there.
Oh, he's there already.
Josh Clausen.
Here.
And Jen Coven.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any agenda changes I need to know about? Okay, great. Anyone want to make any public comment here? Did we get anybody? Okay, great. We're going to get the update from OSU Cascades. Andrew, you want to come on up? And I don't know, Lori, you want to provide any context or we know?
Here's my context. I have had a great time working with Andrew Kutziver. And isn't that the most important thing? Actually, it's not. I think the most important thing, for me to say is that I really value the partnership, the open communication, the candor, and the collaboration that is between our institutions. And I have never seen a relationship within a community as good as the one that between a university and a community is the one that we have. And so I feel really fortunate and I think it's good for the community. And, but I don't want to put any pressure.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. And I want to echo those comments. Lori I've been in this role for 19 months. It's been a long slog as an interim. I have had several mentors throughout this 19 months, some that I've asked to be mentors, others who have volunteered to be a mentor. And I don't think, and sincerely, I don't think that I've gotten any better advice from anybody than I have from Lori. We worked on some pretty hard things together as two institutions of higher education. We are facing some of the same existential threats in higher education as two institutions that are really critical and important to Central Oregon. And I really value the partnership. It's been great. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll just give a few quick updates. I think you said I had an hour or something.
It's funny.
It's fun.
I'll try to, I'll be brief. We are just now closing on our FY24 budget process. So this is the budget that starts for us in July. And some of the interesting things that are coming out of that budget process are new faculty hires that we're looking at. We are currently doing faculty searches in our new outdoor products degree. That's a unique degree that's only at OSU Cascades and not at the main campus. We're also looking for searches in computer science. Since I say this everywhere I go, if you know somebody with a computer science degree, let me know, because hiring in computer science right now is wildly difficult. And I know that
Yes.
Anne Marie, you would echo that sentiment. We're also hiring in our Masters of Arts in Teaching program as well. And next year we'll be hiring in natural resources, psychology, our arts, media, and technology degree, and a faculty member in liberal studies. So that sounds like a lot, and it is, and we're really excited about the possibility of getting some of our programs plussed up with some faculty. We are also going to be hiring staff and professional faculty positions in the near future. One of those is for a diversity coordinator. So we're currently without a specific diversity position on our campus. We've lost both of those positions through attrition, and so we're looking to hire for a diversity coordinator that'll be really student-facing for student programming in the DEI space. And then we just hired some more career development folks, and I'll talk about an exciting initiative that we're working on that we hope that COCC would want to be a partner in. I'll talk about fall enrollment. So I just gave this talk to our advocacy and advisory board last week, so I didn't have to make up any numbers. I actually got real numbers from our folks for this. For fall enrollment, we had an incoming class of 204 first-year students. That was a record for us. We were up by 2% in headcount. We were up in FTE by about 10%. So while we were only up in headcount by 2%, our students are starting to take more and more classes with us. We're up to 1,271 students currently enrolled at OSU Cascades. Interestingly, in our dual program partnership with COCC in the winter term, we have 100 students that are both OSU Cascades and COCC, 100 students who are taking exclusively COCC classes this winter term. So that's also a really exciting partnership, and we're really glad to be able to provide multiple modalities and multiple pathways for students to find their degree. For winter, we're up in enrollment by 5% over winter last year, and our FTE again is up about 11%. So again, students taking more classes with us. So we're bucking the trend a little bit with higher ed with four-year institutions in the state of Oregon who have been down in enrollment. The University of Oregon was about flat. Big OSU in Corvallis was up a little bit. We were up, and most of the others have been down in enrollment. And again, we think that that is a testament to the fact that we're here to serve Central Oregonians and that there is demand for higher education here. Some updates on new programs that we're bringing on. This fall, so last fall, we brought on biochemistry and molecular biology. Again, a responsive degree program for Central Oregon. There are a lot of biotech firms here in Bend, Lonza and others, Grace Bio. And so this degree program is meant to serve those industries that are here. We brought on economics and political science last fall as well. Next fall, we're hopeful in bringing on mechanical engineering. That'll be a joint program between Corvallis and Cascades, and speech communications. And I have nursing on the list, and I won't talk about that because you don't want me to get mad. We're trying to get nursing put through, and we're having a little bit of issue. We can leave it. We can leave it
All right.
I'm happy to answer questions after the fact. We have two campus initiatives that are going on right now. We used to have, 37 of them. We've narrowed that down to 2 now. One is the development of an innovation district. So we're working to remediate 8 acres of land on campus. That'll house 6 buildings, one of which will be workforce housing. The other 5 will be a mixture of buildings that will bring industry on campus and co-locate with our academic programs, giving students those opportunities for job shadowings and internships and then jobs when they're done. The other is an initiative through academic affairs that we're calling Cascades Edge, and it's a career development program meant to bring career development to all of our students. We know that career development is a critical part of what students and their parents are looking for these days. And the Career Development Office at OSU Cascades does a great job with all of those students who happen to trip upon it. If they happen to find it, we retain them at high rates. They get jobs that are right-sized. They're not underemployed when they leave campus. And so those students are really doing well. But how do we get career development to all of our students? And that's a program and initiative that we're calling Cascades Edge that is designed for students to see career development opportunities every single term, including the very first term that they start with us, all the way through beyond OSU and into the job market. One of the things that we see is when students find themselves underemployed in their very first job, 80% of them are underemployed when they retire. So it's a chronic condition that seems like, oh, well, I'll just take this job because it's a job. I got an offer, so I'll take that job. That doesn't really take into consideration all of the skills that I've learned while at the university, but it's a job, and so I'll take it. There's a danger in that. And, we don't see students recognizing that, and so we're trying to help them make sure that they get right-sized jobs when they leave.
That's an amazing statistic from a longitudinal perspective.
4 in 5, are underemployed at retirement if they start off that way. We also have retention rates where our first year to sophomore retention rate is about 60%. That's not great. If we think about retention as being throughout all of OSU, so students who start at Cascades but then go to the main campus, our retention rate is about 80%. So that's normal. But we see much higher retention rate for those students who find the Career Development Center. In the 90% we're retaining students. And so again, we're trying to bring career development to all of our students. We also know there's gaps. There are gaps with our minoritized communities in finding the Career Development Office. They don't find the career development at higher rates than their peers. We also see it by major. So some of our majors that require internships, that those students are finding the Career Development Office because they have to, they're required to. But other majors that don't require it don't find it. So we're seeing gaps all over the place and trying to fill those gaps. What I think is interesting is we're really trying to make sure that this is a program for students throughout their entire academic careers. And so there is, I think, an interesting role that COCC might want to find themselves in, where you might think about some of the things that we're talking about. We might collaborate on some of those so that students who start here are also seeing those benefits as well. Then my final update is we also had a capital request into the state legislature through the HEC this biennia for a health and recreation building. It didn't make it into the HEC recommendation. It did make it into the governor's budget. And so we're now looking to do some advocacy to see if we can't get that building put back into play for this biennia. If you think about COCC and think about this place without a recreation center, it would be a different place. And so that's what we're asking for our students is to have that sort of basic amenity that every other university in Oregon has for the students who go to OSU Cascades. We have some advocacy to do on that end. Yeah,
That was the point I made to Representative Rayfield when you were looking for your student union building. I said, how can you imagine having a university without a student union building? So it worked once, maybe we should try it again.
that's right. And what is both fascinating and frustrating all at the same time is the process, the extra bit of processing that we have to go through to get these buildings approved. But it tends to work. And so, okay, if that's the process, then we know the game and we'll play it well. That Student Success Center will break ground in the summer and will be completed by sometime in the middle of fall term of 2024. So yeah, that bit of advocacy really helped and got us the building that is now the Student Success Center. We're at about the 80% design phase for that building. So I'm really excited about that too.
Well, if we can work together to help with this legislative session, I think it's in both our best interest if we do.
Absolutely. Yes, there are, I don't know, 2,600 bills that got dropped in and, not all of them will
That's not,
make it.
there's more usually.
Yeah, so 2,600 was almost a manageable number. I'm still going through some of those, but there are several that have higher ed implications that we should absolutely be collaborating.
Oliver, do you have any questions? Anyone on Zoom have any questions for Andrew?
I actually do. Mechanical engineering, that's your discipline, isn't it?
It is.
You're gonna do a little teaching in your spare time next year?
Yes, I try to get in the classroom every opportunity.
I could, well, that'd be,
I will be teaching the class next fall.
I thought I was joking.
No,
I'm totally sure.
The classroom is a passion, and so it doesn't feel like work when it's your passion.
Good.
That's what we tell students, right?
Well, you're a positive role model along those lines. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Well,
the
I appreciate
update and continued partnership going forward.
Great. It was really a pleasure and an honor to be here. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Our next item is the consent agenda, which is essentially the minutes of our last meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Oliver, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Moving on to information items. Zach, the movers. Family
Be a
recognition.
resolution in your packet. Thank you. This came about, in a call from a family member of Elaine Moore's, Gary Van Eyck, to the president. And speaking with him last summer, let us know that when this donation was made from the Moore family, Elaine specifically, it was not formally recognized with any documentation they could find at the college, nor could I. I talked to our past college relations director, Ron Paradis. I talked to Alicia. At any rate, I kept in touch with the family and we decided to bring this forward with the president's support. Tonight, solar flares. Sorry, we lost you all there on Zoom for a second. You're back. So we brought this forward tonight so that we could formally recognize the donation of the acreage that Elaine donated, which are now part of the southwest portion of the campus, essentially right down from the Boyle parking lot toward the Culinary Institute. If you've seen the 50th anniversary book that we have, the Brown Book on Massachusetts history, on the very back of that is a map of the donation, and it's reflected there, but there was nothing even in the donor database or in the records that reflected that.
Was at the time, was it intended to be an anonymous donation, or how did something like that fall through the crack?
Well, I'll not say how old I wasn't in 1962. I'm not sure. It may have just been lost in the records. I think when we celebrated the Coates family donation and the Coates family center, it was noticed by the Moore family that it had not been done, and a lovely group, and there are only 2 surviving family members from Elaine. And so those are the folks who are still here in Bend and are just pleased to have it recognized formally in the record. It was also a part of the press release for tonight's meeting, so we were able to share it that way.
Long overdue, but as they say, it's always the right time to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions from people on the Zoom? Great, so this is essentially a resolution that we are going to be,
It's just an information item.
it's just an information item, but that's gonna be happening. Great. Again, Zach, appreciate you helping to shepherd that going forward. Again, long overdue and much appreciated. And I'd certainly be open if they needed more than a plaque. I think we'd be at least,
The naming committee, co-chaired by my colleague to my left, Alicia Moore, we have talked about doing something to recognize all of the folks who helped donate the land to establish the Venn campus. Again, we have that in the maps and we have it in other places, but we don't have something formally recognizing that. So we're talking about doing that. And if we do that, we'll bring that.
great. Super, thank you. Next up, the financial statements. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Wayne?
This is Joe. I do have one in regards to the monthly budget status under general fund on the interest and miscellaneous income. We're running at 18% at 50% through the year. In the previous years at 37% at this time. Just curious what the status is on that.
Yeah, I think it's mostly due to the fact that. Oh, mine is coming closer to the mic. Thank you so much.
So our interest and miscellaneous income is netted with our merchant fees, which are trending quite high. That in addition to, not as profitable interest rates for the college, that's why we're lagging behind in that area. So we don't anticipate, getting up to, the same rates that we had last year.
Fortunately, it's only I'm sorry, it's a bigger item. Okay, never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Joe?
That'll work.
Any other questions? Great, thank you. Next up is a new hire reports. Any questions for Laura? Okay, let's move on to new programs update. Anne Marie and Sarah and Venus.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to tell you about some exciting new certificate options that we're offering to students. These are options that can propel them directly into jobs in Central Oregon or can prepare them for transfer to institutions throughout the state and elsewhere. We have with us tonight, two faculty members who I will introduce both at the same time. You can go ahead and get ready. And then they will take the show from here. Sarah Barron is an assistant professor of public health. She's been with us since 2019. Sarah developed two certification courses that she's going to talk about tonight for students who are interested in stepping into careers in public health. They are community health worker and peer support specialist. She is also developing a certificate program in community health with a planned launch of 2024. And this work has been supported by grants from the American Rescue Plan Grant and Central Oregon Health Council. She serves as well on the Traditional Health Worker Commission for the state of Oregon. Venus Nguyen will be up next, is assistant professor of art. She has been at COCC since 2020. Venus developed two certificate programs that the board approved last year. You'll recognize these titles, I'm sure: graphic design and illustration. Future Ready Oregon dollars have helped purchase some new computers and some other technology for these two programs. Students in these programs are trained for in the industry standard software so that they are job ready when they complete their coursework. Sarah?
All right. Great. I have some folders here that if you go ahead and take one and pass it around. I'll do the thing. All right. Should I make it big or not?
Yeah, you're welcome to. It's sharing with the Zoom audience.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk a little bit about the community health worker training. I'm going to be focusing in on this and then also talking about how that's going to build into the workforce. So first of all, let's start off with the community health worker and what it is. I'm going to kind of drag this.
You can minimize that too.
I can. All right, good. So a community health worker is really a frontline public health worker who's a trusted member, is someone with lived experience from the community who really understands what the needs of the community are. And one of the big things that is really important is a community health worker played a very significant role in the pandemic in doing outreach to communities for vaccinations, for making sure that people had transportation to different areas to get to the doctor, to even addressing health insecurity, food insecurity. And so one of the big things, this really addresses the social determinants of health. So this is a workforce that really is on the front lines. And it's also in the state of Oregon, which is really exciting, is that they have this umbrella called the traditional health worker. And then underneath it, they have 5 different types of roles for outreach into the community. And the community health worker, along with the peer support specialist, both are doing that outreach. And the community health worker has been really essential in doing that outreach. And then they get certified. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So what does this mean? So the Oregon Health Authority, under the Office of Equity and Inclusion, this is where the traditional health worker lives with their registration and where they get registered after they do the training that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. It is a national priority for strengthening public health. I think one of the big things, and the way I like to think about this, is that in public health, it's really about community health. Community health is essential to your health and well-being. And public health has been underfunded and has been behind the scenes for a while. And we really depend on it to do the outreach. So the spotlight's on public health to really strengthen it, to strengthen the workforce, to really look at the infrastructure, the systems from the US healthcare system to how we reach out into the community health area. And with that, what they did was OHA, and not every state did this, but Oregon did. They decided to take some of their Medicaid funding, OHP, Oregon Health Plan, and to tie it to reimbursement for the traditional health worker. To me, this is a game changer, right? Because now they're considered a part of the US healthcare system. There's a billing mechanism for it. They're official. They're not only grant funded, they're a part of they could be in a clinic, they could be in a nonprofit. And you can see that I'm getting really excited about this because it really gives them a role into the US healthcare system. It makes them official with the billing system. And so what happened, what was really exciting, is when it became that way, the community said, we really need a training here in Central Oregon that's specific to the needs of the community health here. And they asked COCC to create this 80-hour training, to submit it to Oregon Health Authority for approval, and to provide this training. And what's really great is that you get college credit. And I really like that 80% underemployed really resonated with me when you talked about that statistic, because the idea is that in public health, one of the big things in community health and in training is you want to be tied to some kind of degree advancement. And so what we did here at COCC that's really exciting is we tied it to that 80-hour training and to college credit. And at the same time, this is like serendipitous, they needed a community college workforce development representative. And so someone put my name out there, just asked me to sit on it. And I was like, oh, yes. So I sit on the commission and I get to see some of the policy work that's being developed around this. And that's really exciting because community colleges play such a significant role in workforce development. And this is an area that you're going to see community colleges across the state really start to take a look at. And we're one of the few that actually do this. There are not many, but I see more coming on board with this.
Why do you think others have not done it to date?
You know, that's a really good question. And the answer is that there's an approval process that you need to go through at the state level. And you really, and what's really key, and I'm glad you asked that question, is that you need to partner with a community-based organization. And Thrive Central Oregon, who I need to give serious kudos and shout outs, really partnered up, the CEO and I, Sarah, two Sarahs, ironically. And so they really helped develop the curriculum, and then a CBO needs to sponsor the community college to go forward.
Okay.
So it's really important that a community-based organization is part of it. And you also need to really show that you're community health and that you're not in academia up on a kind of like I'm a professor, I'm an instructor, but more like I'm working with a community-based organization and we're really hearing from them about what the community needs are. You have to show that.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I remember having coffee with Sarah, I don't know how many years ago when she was talking about the concept of Thrive at the very first, literally at the beginning, and to see how it has evolved and grown and played such an important role right now.
It's central. And what's really interesting is that community health workers really tie back and use a lot of the Central Oregon Thrive resources, neighborhood impact. And so these community-based organizations are at the heart, and you really need to partner with them. So that means that you really need to partner with the community. And so this next slide, this community support slide, is key. So last year we had a work session, and Julie and Tony and Wendy and Owen, all faculty and staff and administrators, dean, we each did a listening session. We had over 60 people show up for the listening session around the community health. And what you see behind here is this commitment from the community to really support this community health workforce pathway. And what happened was American Rescue Plan and Central Oregon Health Council, the county got behind doing scholarships for every single peer support specialist and community health worker has full ride scholarships for the training because of that funding. And then the Hickok Wallace Community Health Worker Fund at COCC Foundation came in with private funds. That was awesome. And also really became a thought partner too, because both of those, both of them really have some ideas about what it's like for community health, and they really helped really think about what we were going to be doing. And then rural Oregon was key too with the HRSA grant. And then you can see the whole list of people. Got to give a shout out to Pacific Source Plans, because they are the people who came to COCC and asked us to really think about developing a community health worker. And then of course, strategic planning funds. And then last but not least, I've got to make sure that I acknowledge the public health partners, the Tri-County, where they're going to go work. And Thrive Central Oregon helping with the community based organization, developing the curriculum. And I'm sure that I missed somebody, but I just wanted to make sure that you really saw this kind of, what I think of it is like, if anyone surfs or does any boogie boarding or just knows how to catch a wave, you have this feeling right before you catch a wave, and then you're on the wave and it's propelling you forward. That's what it feels like here. It feels like we just have this surge of synergy and energy really supporting this. So with that, then let's talk about the kind of like what's happened. Okay, so we built the course, we got it approved by OHA, yay, right? And so we start offering the course. Now you hope people actually show up, right? And they did. We've started with full enrollment of every class. And I wrote this number down, I think it was 2021. So we've done about 4 cohorts. We're on our second cohort of peer support specialists. Every class gets filled and we have waiting lists, and we have a 98% completion rate. So they're completing the classes, and then after they complete the class, they upload their application to here, and they become a registered traditional health worker with a Medicaid bill back number, which really kind of signals you're in the workforce. So let me just say that, just kind of wrap this up with a bow to say that the CHW class really fits into the larger public health sequence of where we're going. And this is a screenshot from our webpage that I just love. And then we have programs where we have the Associate Arts of Transfer degree, our community health worker peer support, and then our practicums where they get that work experience, those internships. And then, you know, we have career information, and then the fact that this all fits in because this is how it works. A community health worker, you don't need to have any prereqs, you don't have to do writing or math placement. Because you need to have experience with community, and so you get into the class. And now it's college credit, and this person's successful in it, and they go, wow, I can do college. I can really do this. And I love it when I get an email back going, I can do this. And then the next thing you know, they have college credit now, they can go out into the workforce, but if they want to go back, they can continue on with the AAOT and all the way up to their master's. Now, what's really interesting is I've been here for 4 years, and I am now in the second, only 2 years really kind of being this community health worker AAOT, and I'm now writing graduate school recommendation letters for people who started with this. And you're like, how did that happen? And then it just like that, it just takes off. They get, you get hooked. So that is what happens. And so let's talk about jobs. And I know that's tiny font up there, so I'm going to test your eyesight. That says community health worker, Gentle Dental, community health worker, Mosaic Medical, community health worker, supervisor. And then these are jobs that are coming out there. And for peer support, it would see Deschutes County. You would see a whole nother list. And then one of our graduates, Janessa Wells, she was just recently hired as a workforce navigator, and she has helped doing policy and workforce development across the state with CLOV. And I'll always get this wrong. So Coalition of Health Liaisons of Oregon. And if I didn't do that right, but I just know their acronym CLOV. And then last but not least, I really liked the Legacy magazine, where they interviewed and published success stories and really gave some student voices. And right here you see Allie is up here on the front there. They're working out at Cook County Health Department as a health strategist. So that is just some highlights of some stories, success stories out there. So what's next? We're going to continue to do these OHA approved class training, CHW class trainings, do peer support specialist trainings. I'm excited because we're going to take this to a 1-year certificate. After we did the listening session with the community, we said, do you want to do this? And would you support this? And they said, yes, because community health workers, peer support specialists, all need to get continuing education units. And why not get a certificate? Because those continuing education units, when you Department of Education says if you take a community college or college credit course, those immediately count towards CEUs if it aligns with your workforce. So why not just do a 2-for-1 punch, right? And build a certificate that really supports their workforce development and a degree. So we make that stackable, like we stack on top of each other. We're working with the community now with Pacific Source and Oregon Health Authority to do a summit here at COCC on June 2023, just coming up to really talk about workforce development. And then we're really also looking at outreaching into the high schools, into the community, and really looking at this as a pathway that can continue and expand. And that pictures some students going to OSU, the Beaver Cup. They gave that to me. We did a little outreach there and really talk. And that was more like educating me on the Beavers. And then this was from the showcase last year, where the students are going to be doing this again March 15, highlighting some of their work and what they're doing. And so that is it. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
I just want to say, I think this is extraordinary. In my previous role at St. Charles, it was sort of separated apart from the CH. They call them community health educators, and they're a different division. But now at Mosaic, as a care coordinator, I'm literally sitting next to our clinic's community health worker and watching what they do and how they help our patients address the social determinants of health, whether it's setting them up for a sliding scale on pharmacy or other medical payments they need to make, connecting them with Thrive or Neighbor Impact and other organizations, getting them on the right lists for housing, helping them navigate, issues in their life, delivering food boxes, even going and doing home visits. it really takes a burden off of the providers in the clinics, so that they're able to actually address the medical needs. Because some of those other things that are affecting the patient's health are getting addressed through the work of the community health workers.
That, you summed it up perfectly, all the different things that they do. And I think when they look at if, you know, health is really related to the social determinants of health, because if you can connect it, you can actually address your medical needs. So good. And it's definitely starting to get incorporated more into our US healthcare system. So we're going to be part of it. Exciting.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for being a professor, a teacher. I mean, finding a teacher in the medical field is real hard. And thank you for doing it.
Well, I have to tell you that what gets me really excited is when I see them get excited and then they go on to be successful. And then it just makes my heart feel good. So it's like they get back. I learn a lot from them. So, but thank you for that. Appreciate it. Good. Well, thank you for listening. You can tell anyone who said, we'll talk about community health. I'm like, yeah. All right. Thank you.
You can sit, yeah, so I don't mess up your.
Yeah.
Sit on the same.
Yes.
I have
folders too. We are set. Oh, you don't need to download or anything?
No, it's
Oh,
it's the same.
It's
all
together. Yeah.
Just next.
Just go to the next
one.
I love that. And then, yeah, I should have probably made the next slide.
I can put.
There we go.
I can put the arrow button.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
So thank you for inviting me here. I'm Venus, as Anne Marie had mentioned, and the opportunity to present from the art and design program, and specifically highlighting our one-year certificate of completion in graphic design and illustration that was approved by the board last year around this time. And so a lot of times people who aren't super familiar with graphic design and illustration will ask me, yeah, what is that? Because there is a difference. And so I'm going to break this whole thing down, this whole presentation, like the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where. So I know I'm a designer. Organization is key. So starting with the what. So what's the difference between graphic design and illustration? So let's talk with the similarities first. Similarities being that graphic design and illustration are both forms of visual communication. And this is reflected in is if you go to various institutions, universities, or art schools, sometimes graphic design and illustration will live in the communications part. It won't necessarily be in art or visual art. It's sometimes just specifically college of design. So being aware of that and keeping our students aware that they may end up in that pathway if they transfer. The next part being what are the differences between these two things? And we really spend a lot of time with students talking about this because they are different mindsets for students, and you can get both, but typically you focus on one or the other to start out with. So graphic design takes visual content and combines them with typography. So like all the folders and stuff you're holding right now, that is all graphic design stuff. This is student work that we've had over the last year with branding, packaging design. There's some stuff for culinary. They did a whole bunch of website layouts and print and digital advertising. While illustration takes a visualization of information, so typically a concept of some kind, and makes that visual. So where can our students go with these kinds of career pathways is obviously graphic design. Entry-level graphic design, they can go freelance or they can work for companies. There are other pathways that can continue on in graphic design, which includes UX UI, which is user experience, marketing, production artist, or a creative or art director. And illustration pathways lead towards illustration, obviously, illustrators for books, children's books, magazines, editorial illustration, comics, as well as scientific illustration is a focus that we have here. They could be concept artists or animators, game developers. There's usually more schooling involved with that, but what we lead them in that pathway. Again, creative or art directly in any of those specific areas. They can go into transfer. And transfer, I highlighted here some of the Oregon colleges that have specific pathways that lead to graphic design degrees, either bachelor's of arts or bachelor's of fine arts. And I'll focus on the PNCA, Northwest College of Art, which is also known as Willamette now, has master's programs, as well as Lewis and Clark, and Oregon State here has the arts, media, technology degree that we align with a lot of them now. National colleges listed there. And the really interesting thing about those specific colleges and the fact that they are focused on design and illustration is they have remote options. So students don't necessarily have to leave Central Oregon to complete their bachelor's degree or even a master's at some of these. So how fast can they get these certificates? As you know, they're one-year certificates of completion. These both courses are set up. So in your little package there is the sample plan for students. We give this to students. And what we really wanted to make sure that we did is offer these courses in more ways than just the traditional student would have, which would be like in-person type courses. Because we all learned, right, during COVID, that there are other ways to learn. So anything listed in that sample plan during that time is offered as an in-person version and an online version. So depending on the type of student that we have, so we're more accessible to students. So they share, both certificates share these core courses, including a portfolio development class, which is super important for career path as well as transfer. Graphic design has 4 specific courses beyond that. And illustration also has 4 specific courses. So who are our students? Our students would range from traditional students, so students coming straight out of high school, planning on eventually transferring to a 4-year institution. We have many students who are dual credit students. They were already here before I got here 2 years ago and aligned with Baker, and they fill our digital photo class all the time, the online digital photo class. So dual credit, they're getting their CTE as well as getting their high school diploma, which is awesome. And we also learned during COVID, the way that we learn and the way that we work has shifted, and many non-traditional students are coming back and enrolling because they're thinking of a different career path. What are career paths that I can do remotely that I don't necessarily have to be in person to do? And both of these pathways lend towards that. And finally, technology is always advancing, especially in any pathway that involves a digital component. So some companies at my previous institution will send their employees back to re-up their certifications or continuing education in specific areas. So why are we offering these at COCC? Okay, so some of us decided to pursue a career and a degree in art, and then their family might have mentioned, what are you going to do with that? You're going to get a degree in Googling, what do you do? So I didn't exactly have the best, someone didn't have the best advising, and I didn't really know. Like, I got my degree, I was young, I got out of it, and the whole starving artist thing like that went into play. So coming back to teaching after freelancing for many, many years and working with various companies, I realized that I hope every student gets to do traditional fine art and puts their pieces in some gallery somewhere in Paris and they could make millions of dollars from that sort. But in the meantime, I promise them they can make business cards and coupons and pay rent. And that's what these certificates do. They align with our AOT already. So they can technically get both certificates and the AOT and art transfer, do whatever it is they need to do and survive. So we look at the projections here in Oregon. Graphic designer in Oregon currently makes around $25 an hour, while illustrators make a little bit more, but you can see a huge difference in the state employment. This number is a little bit strange because a lot of illustrators are freelance. So it's not quite perfect on what they're necessarily doing. But these are careers that our students could get right away with these certificates. And if they chose to move forward with those, they can go into marketing or branding or multimedia artists, which technically means stuff that has to do with video game development, typically, or animation. And I just want to highlight a few of those things, the career openings, the hourly wage goes up a lot. And if you look at the multimedia artists, that's 41% growth in the next 10 years. So we are here on the cutting edge of teaching these students, and they will be able to use what we give them in illustration and graphic design to go up to the next level. So current statistics, so I'm going to point out, right, as you all know, this was just approved. So the certificates have only been a real thing for 1 term and 4.5 weeks so far. So statistics are a little bit off on like completion rates, we'll say. In the fall, we had 17 declared students in graphic design, 8 in illustration. Winter, we immediately went up to 20 in graphic design and 11 in illustration. And I will say, if a student is getting an AAOT, they don't show up on my little spreadsheet of being declared in these programs, but just knowing the students themselves, we have an additional 8 students that are also getting their AOT and the certificate pathway and are pretty close to being done if they kind of started last year, what's going on. When I put these certificates through, we had projected for 10 total, since we had never offered anything like this before from both programs, total 10. And looking at what I see right now, I'm going to see about 15 in graphic design this spring and 10 in illustration. Some of our student success in our program, the art and design program, we have Nacho, who was chosen for Oregon All Academic, one of 4 students out of COCC, which is really awesome, also getting his AOT in art and illustration. Mel, one of my assistants, is the art director for the Broadside, using the skill set that she's gotten from graphic design. Scott is a veteran and was really cool. He got hired out of state before he got his degree, and now is completing his degree because of the way we have things set up, that he can finish everything online. And finally, Monica, graduated from the nursing program, came back because she can apply graphic design illustration to nursing and is already working as a freelance designer. Program highlights are, we have a pottery sale that we've been running for like 15, 20 terms now, over and over, like twice a year. And we also include 2D and digital art. So students get the opportunity to sell their work there for 100% profit. And they get experience with pricing their work, dealing with the community, and it helps them build their portfolios. We're doing that here through that. In the past 2 years, we've expanded our course offerings, and we have some really awesome upcoming courses that are highly anticipated by our students, including animation, video production, and scientific illustration linked with the science department and biology, helping them create some of the illustrations they want. And finally, we are linking with Youth Career Connect for local internship opportunities for students to receive on-the-job paid experience in these areas. That's it. So if you have any questions, and I'm really appreciative of what y'all have done supporting our art students. They need some love.
Great, well, thank you, appreciate you supporting them as well. Al?
Does every community college do this, or are we unique?
As far as Mount Hood had a program in intermedia, which was a 1-year certificate program. It is not quite aligned the way it was to the area high schools anymore. So we are almost done with the articulation and alignment for those students to come into our program and some of those high school instructors to teach our 100 level classes. So as far as I know, we're pretty much it for the certificates.
And I can see your program being one where a lot of people like to draw. They don't know much of other stuff. But once they get engaged and they see how their drawing can be productive, then the rest of the world opens up with more excitement to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times what we as artists and designers don't know is what we can do with our career paths. So coming to us and seeing what we have here, I really try to spend a lot of time telling them like there is jobs and they pay well. Let me help you like with the skills that you'll need to be able to get there and put in your portfolio.
If I were to ask you the pipeline, are there particular high schools in Central Oregon that have a really robust sort of a media and design that you see a higher percentage of students coming from them, or is there?
I can't
Is
say
there any
it's
kind of a
particular one right away, but I know once we get that alignment, things will change.
Okay.
Some of the high schools are not fully equipped yet to be able to, like, we have the lab that we got with the grant funding is like state of the art. It's one of the best that I've ever been around. So we're working with maybe bringing in Perkins funds when we get that alignment to get some of that technology at the high school so they will be ready to transfer in directly.
Jen?
Venus, would you mind, going back to the Nathan image for a second?
Oh, yeah.
The really cool thing about, that image that you see in the middle by one of our CSCC students, Nathan, can you say, Nathan's last name? Is it Pickering?
Great.
Yeah, if you go to any source outlet today and grab the copy of this issue, that illustration is on the front cover of the source. And that is because Nathan's work within the Community Gallery, Black Excellence exhibition. And it's very cool to see students getting paid, that Nathan will be paid to have their art on the cover of the source this week in honor of Black History Month.
It's a digital illustration and we have it printed and placed in the gallery. When we did the opening, it sold in the first 5 minutes and sold many times over after that because they're like, it's a print, right? You can run more. So yeah, we ended up getting a lot of money in for, and that student is remote in Redmond and has done great things. We're really proud.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Again, I appreciate both of you helping us get up to speed.
And I just want to add, I love this. Sarah used the metaphor of like the whole community is coming in this big wave and we're just riding it. And we're doing good work for our communities and for getting people into good jobs. But these things wouldn't happen if we didn't have faculty who are willing to ride those waves, right? And that's not an easy thing. And there's just so much energy and so much work and so much enthusiasm from Sarah and Venus. I'm just in awe. And so I not only wanted them to come here to show you what some of our new programs are, I want you to see them and to see the lengths they go to ensure responsiveness, alignment, and that our students have opportunities. That is just so cool in my view.
Great.
And I have to say one thing I forgot to say in the presentation, but the shout out to my department who's so supportive and to the deans and to the administration because they're letting us ride that way and supporting us. And I have to say in my, this is towards the end of my tenure, but it is really great. So back at you.
You and I both, we have a big ask thing and the college has been really, really supportive and helping us.
They're visionaries with us. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right.
The next item is Board of Directors Operations. I'm gonna go ahead and I think I'll start with Jim. What have you been up to lately?
We had a whole bunch of real estate committee meetings, which occupied more or less 200 or 300 hours in the last couple of weeks.
So you've solved all the challenges and the questions?
You'll hear more about that later. We didn't quite wrap up everything, but making progress.
Thank you. How about Laura?
2 real estate committee meetings, one on January 30th and one on February 3rd.
Thank you. Joe?
Just replicate Laura's and Jim's dates and times.
Great. You guys practically got a quorum there on online, right? For the meeting. How about Oliver?
I had the pleasure of attending the Black Excellence Showcase at the here on campus and got to see Nathan's digital print in the flesh, and that was quite an extraordinary display of art. It was really neat to see, and it's here to have a good turnout.
Great, good. Alan?
On January 13th, I was participated in a college affairs meeting. And on February 3rd, an Oregon Community College Association board meeting. And I've participated in a couple legislative calls that happen at 4 on Mondays to kind of let us know what's going on in Salem. And it's just getting started.
Cool. I participated in a number of calls with Dr. Chesley and Laura Bomey, and then had the pleasure yesterday and Willie Hall, the Envision Bend had their sort of summit and report back to the community on what they had heard. And it was overflowing. It's safe to say it certainly exceeded their expectations. And I also want to mention that they gave extensive appreciation to Zach and to the college for helping make that all happen. But just a great event. And it was really a nice way to showcase some of the facilities and the amenities that the college has.
Good.
Yes.
Just want to ask one more thing. So my brother Craig passed away just before Christmas. He's the youngest of us 5. He just died in his sleep, but I just wanted to thank the administration for the nice card that she sent me. And we've been getting a lot of cards. The funeral had 400 people there, so the community really will miss it.
Thank you, Alan. Sorry for your loss. Let's turn over to the president's report, a legislative update.
All right, well, as Alan said, it's that time of year, and we've got a lot of folks at the college on this effort, and so we'll do just a brief PowerPoint. And Jen Kovitz serves as our campus advocacy coordinator with OCCA, and so she's playing a role making sure that the legislative efforts at OCCA translate to us, and we do what we need to do to support their agenda. And so I'm just going to go right to the second slide. OCCA has 3 major legislative priorities, and the first of those is to increase the community college support fund allocation. The governor's recommended budget increased the CCSF by 6.4%. And what HEC and OCC are both recommending is 20.1%. That would be $855 million, and then 50 million in one-time funding to bridge some of the difficult transition from the assistance that was provided with COVID to the reality that we live in now. And so who knows how it ends up, but we see a lot of love for community colleges as we visit with our legislators.
And again, just to be clear, so the increase by 20% is over the last biennium?
Over the legislatively adopted budget. So
Okay.
yes, over the last biennium. The second priority is to increase Oregon Opportunity Grants. And for those of you who don't know, and if we want anything more specific, we're going to turn to Alicia, but this is Oregon's largest state-funded need-based grant, available to a broad range of students. The desire of OCCA is to increase that by 200 million, and the governor recommended 100 million. The third priority is to pass and approve the ability for the Oregon community colleges to offer a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. We've gone back to ask for this specifically because although we can offer applied baccalaureates, the medical profession doesn't really recognize an applied baccalaureate in nursing. They have the standard of the BSN. And so we would need approval to do this. I think this is a tough sell because there's a lot of universities working against this, frankly, despite the incredible need that we have. We have worked, I think, as you know, extensively, our folks with OSU Cascades to collaborate on a pathway from our associates to their bachelors. They have not succeeded against some of the forces that exist to have that approved. Namely, Oregon Health Sciences University that kind of maintains a monopoly on that work. So that's our first preference, but we've said to Andrew, and he understands and supports it, that if that doesn't work out, we will certainly be, and this does, we'll certainly be exploring this as an option. I won't say we'll do it specifically. It's a heavy lift, but you know, I think the great thing about working with OSU Cascades on these sorts of issues is that we just want to get it done for Central Oregon.
Good.
And honestly, whoever does it, we don't care. They're better positioned to do it. That's the fact. So that would be our certainly our preference. But you know, we need more bachelor's qualified nurses. So those are the three priorities for OCCA. I'll note that the governor recommended a 6.4 increase in funding for community colleges. If you're curious, it's a 1.4% increase for the public universities. And the other sort of point of interest for OCCA, if not for us specifically, is that the governor's budget doesn't include any new capital construction for higher ed. OCCA will still be advocating for the community colleges capital requests. We're already approved, so that's not an issue, but there were 5 new requests. And the money associated with just those 5 requests is about 1 university building. So OCCA is still going to be advocating for that, and we're going to, of course, support that.
Laura, quick question. I'm just sort of curious. The Bachelor of Science in nursing, are there other sort of avenues or other careers that might be a bachelor degree at a community college, or
There, to my knowledge, across the country, there are applied bachelor's degrees.
Okay.
And what those are usually in are unique CTE centered fields where the community colleges are the only provider of that curriculum. A weird example I have from the state of Michigan, Alpena Community College had an applied bachelor's degree in concrete management or something, and they had concrete production is a big deal there, right? And so they had a bachelor's degree in that, bachelor's degree in maritime, things of that nature.
Thank you.
So we've been not only Jen's been working hard, but as have many other people on our staff advocacy. And I talk about that broadly because it's also advocacy for not just state funding and state priorities, but advocacy for federal dollars, advocacy for various kinds of funders. And so we really are taking a team approach to this work. And not only do we have Jen, but and me, but Zach is out talking with representatives and obviously with funders all the time. Alicia is also doing this work. Sean Tevlin, our grants coordinator. And I've just begun to list here. This morning, we spent about an hour and a half, Zach, me, Jeremy Green, and Amy Ward at the Redmond campus, giving a tour to Ron Wyden's and Jeff Merkley's local staff representatives. And it was fabulous. There's such a benefit to having more than one voice at the table because we all know different things and we all can play different roles. And it was just a pleasure. And really, honestly, what we were doing other than having a good time, because we did. We were setting up a request for congressionally designated funds, spending from the federal government. It'll come out soon because we want some money for mattress, frankly. So team approach. So I've mentioned, I believe, in updates for you folks that we are doing and have done visits with each of our state legislators who represent Central Oregon. We will be doing follow-up calls as needed. Zach and I are hitting the road in a couple of weeks and going to Salem, and we have a broad range of appointments with legislators there. Chair of the House Education Committee, so not just Central Oregon, but some other key players as well. Mailings, Jen has really increased our communication about what's going on at COCC with our legislators. Zach and I and Jeremy Green did a presentation last Wednesday for the CTE Wednesdays. It's CTE month in Salem. And she made sure that all of our representatives knew we were doing this and that they had a video of it afterwards if they couldn't attend. So participation in OCC of legislative events. Just today, Alicia offered testimony to the HEC Funding and Achievement Committee about the proposed new formula for the Community College Support Fund. She was the best one. I'm just going to say it. I'm just cheering there listening. I shared written testimony, a letter with our thoughts about that. So we're busy. And that's a good thing. And we have a great story to tell. I mean, that's what was also really, really fun, frankly. But you can also be involved. I said this is a team sport. There are activities for everybody. So I'm going to let Jen talk about those because she's just the master of some of this detail.
Well, we'll see about mastery, but thank you, Lori. So for those of you on Zoom, I'm going to try to share my web browser. So the thing I really appreciate about OCCA is that they make participation in some of these advocacy efforts really easy to do and very accessible, especially for those who might not want to make a phone call to the legislator or might feel like I don't quite know what to say, or I don't have mastery of, what House Bill 1234 actually means. So I want to share some of that with you. So OCCA17.com, they have this lovely advocacy tab right here. And the first thing I want to point out, just in case the board wants to explore, is the advocacy. Of course.
While that's getting tuned in, I'll mention that one of the things I'm proposing that I bring to the March meeting, and OCCA is hoping every board will do, is a resolution supporting their three main priorities and that I just outlined. So that's something to be done. And then, everyone we talk to then knows the boards of all the community college support these agendas.
Get it? We got it. All right. Thanks for buying me time, Lori.
I'm good at that.
All right, so on their website, under advocacy, you can navigate to the advocacy toolkit. And I appreciate this just because sometimes I need a quick reminder or just a summary for people I'm speaking with about those legislative priorities that Lori shared. So you can see those in two different options. They always have a PDF that you can print out. This is true for the priorities, for the budget request, for the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, as well as for the Oregon Opportunity Grant. And they also have key talking points. So again, as we're thinking about, Zach and Lori going to Salem, or if you find yourself on a board or in a community gathering where you're with one of the legislators, I think it's good to just review some of these so that you're kind of at the ready to be able to say why the ask is 20 plus million in additional spending. And there's some really good talking points in there. The other thing I want to call out is this take action step. So I mentioned that OCCA makes it easy to advocate on behalf of these issues. So OCCA uses a software called Voter Voice, which is a really easy either web browser based tool, or it's an app if you like apps on your phone or your tablet, to reach your local, or excuse me, your state legislators and the governor about the priorities that OCCA has. So depending on where we are in the legislative cycle, there will be different voter voice campaigns. And I thought I'd just walk you through how easy it is to use in case you want to advocate for either one of these. I should also note that as we move closer to knowing what the final bills will be as they get voted, the voter voice campaigns might turn on or off for specific votes, and we'll always let you know, and we'll send you links right to them. And then the other thing is when we get close to that final budget vote, there's going to be a major voter voice campaign. And so we might not be asking you to take action now, because we might be asking you to wait and kind of throw all our eggs behind that budget basket, but we'll keep you posted. So how does this work? You can download the app. I find this browser so easy to use that I just use Voter Voice this way. Okay, so I clicked on I want to support State Bill 520 or Senate Bill 523, which is the BSN. So what's it doing here? So I can choose to write a message to my representative. If you're a Twitter user, you can compose a tweet. It'll do that for you, or it'll even give you a phone script. If you want to put in your information, it'll give you numbers to call, and it'll populate a script that you can read verbatim when you call your legislator. So for the sake of our purposes, let's just see what it looks like to write an email to our representative. So it populates this message body, and maybe you want that, or maybe you actually want to add something personal. You know, Oliver, perhaps this is where you would draw from personal experience where you want to add something personal. You can add that here too. So you can take the template as it is, or add something that comes from your personal or professional experience. You complete this information. It needs to know your home information just so that it can point you to the right representatives, right? And that's based on your street address and your zip code. You can opt out from ever hearing from Voter Voice ever again, so it won't contact you once you do it. And then once you put this in, it's just going to send you an email to confirm that you're actually the human being doing this work. You enter a confirmation code, and then it sends the messages straight to your representative. The great news is that we are allowed to ask our employees to do this too. So Voter Voice is something that we can share with COCC staff and COCC students, COCC partners and community members in order to do this in a way where it doesn't take very much time. And it also really, I think it makes access to representatives and the act more equitable. Any questions about Voter Voice or the tool?
And Jen, I bet if any board member wanted to call you and have you kind of walk them through
Totally.
how that would work and getting plugged in, that you would do that, because you and I are going to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was a lot of skepticism around Voter Voice when they first rolled it out. Like, is this really, like, you're just going to send a bunch of robotic tweets at your legislators and that's going to move the needle? But they have found that this is a great way of getting that volume of support in front of the representatives, and the representatives notice, right? Human beings do have to take the steps to do this. And it did work for several issues in the last legislative session. So OCCA is resubmitted here, but yes, happy to help.
So they do count, the number of things they get.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the bill number up there. Do they make sure that they put the bill number and the?
Yeah, so if you see right there, it's hard to read. I know it's small,
I
but
can't
the
read it.
subject
Okay.
line says support and co-sponsor Senate Bill 523. And again, you
Okay.
can customize that subject if you want, but yes, everything, and the Senate Bill or the House bill number is also mentioned in the message body.
Anything else on the legislative update?
No, Alan, do you want to add anything? Because you're in on a lot of these calls as well.
Yeah, it's just getting started and I would just encourage everybody to try it once. And see how you like it or not, and maybe Shan can help you walk through a first time. Because it does make a difference if we show there's broad support out there for some of the stuff that we want to have them support too.
It's good. Good. Thank you. Next item is upcoming dates. Wednesday, March 8th is our next Board of Directors meeting. Tuesday, April 11th is a real estate committee meeting. And then Wednesday, April 12th is another Board of Directors meeting. When are we going to be going to a different community?
May and June.
May and June, okay?
Bruce, may I add an important date, April 8th, meal of the year, that will be on the calendar next month, but you gotta save the day in the beginning.
ORS 192.660, Section 2, subsection E, discussion of real property transactions, and ORS 192.660, Section 2, subsection D, labor negotiations. Representatives of news media and designated staff and other persons shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All of the members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. And at the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and will